love playing there. Still, we love playing there. It's a great place, the best place we can imagine. That's all good. But we didn't win the last 2 games, I know that. But we were not interested in winning 68 in a row. So it's all about trying again. It's all about being positive, enjoying football, all these kind of things. It's and make it a fortress again. That's how it is. But it will not happen in a press conference with what I would say here. I'm not 10% in the mood to speak about anything. I would talk to my players, because when I'm with them, I'm with 100%. They're here. It's still like paid holiday, so then they cannot win the game here. I cannot lose the game here. The only thing I have to do is answer questions, and that's what I do, but not about what I'm telling my players.
Well, it is the headline of the weekend, Sunday evening match between Liverpool and Manchester City. We can't wait for this one. Joining us to preview it, we've got a man who played for both of the sides. Steve McManaman joins us. Hiya, Steve. Good to see you. Look, this is the match everyone's looking forward to this weekend, isn't it? How important is it for Liverpool to win this? If they don't, is that it for them and their title hopes?
Well, it's paramount that they win the game. Of course it is, Jules. That's an easy question to answer because of what's happened beforehand, and there's so many points behind City. If they lose, of course you would say it's not all over, but it'd be very, very uncertain, and they're very slim that they would retain the league, because the form that Manchester City are in, you would think that they would win their game in hand. It's up against Everton, of course, which is a difficult game. And that'll happen in a couple of weeks' time. But they look virtually unstoppable at the moment. And if they did get to 13 points, including their game in hand, and of course if they win on Sunday, that would take some pegging back. And Liverpool are not in the right type of form yet, and haven't got the personnel back yet for them to go on a run of such that you would see them clawing that back. So you'd think it'd be very difficult if they lost the game on Sunday that they'd have any chance of retaining the Premier League champions.
Maka, we've seen Liverpool and they play at such a high intensity. I've watched them recently. They do look a little bit tired, don't you think?
Yes, and I think that's just the culmination of everything, Robbie. I mean, you know that when you've got certain players missing in certain positions, it's vitally important. They're really down to the bare bones in certain positions. They're taking away that speed, that energy level from the likes of Jordan Henderson and Fabinho, who are normally in the centre of the park. So yeah, they do look a little bit leggy. Of course, the quality drops off when you start using your players who are normally 18, 19, 20th in that squad. Yeah. So the quality levels drop off, and I think that all adds up to the lethargic performances of late. Certainly at home. The fact that they haven't been able to break teams down at home, they haven't got, necessarily a plan B when you can't break teams down who want to defend a certain way. I think that'll all change on Sunday because of the opposition and the magnificent form Manchester City are in, and they'll be so confident they'll believe that they can take the game to Liverpool as they do. So it'll be a different type of game than the Brightons and the Burnleys we've seen at Anfield, but equally, Manchester City are in devastating form at the moment. They're extremely confident. They look as if they're rock solid at the back, and they have been for a while. And I think that that shows Liverpool they've got a different type of game on Sunday.
Maka, it's Glenn here. How do you think Thiago has been doing for Liverpool in the middle of that midfield?
Well, I think at Anfield, against teams that he's played against, he struggled. I think it shows that. Against teams like West Ham and Tottenham, where he's had more time on the ball, where teams have come out a little bit because Liverpool have been away from home, he's controlled games better, but he hasn't had the impact, I think, as we all want him to be. But I think it's hard to judge him at the moment, Glenn. The fact that he hasn't got a Fabinho around him, a Henderson around him, he's playing. He hasn't got the back two behind him, giving him that confidence, pushing him further up the field. I think it has been a difficult transition for him. I think early on in the season, we all know what type of player he is, and we all know how good he can be. But the fact that he's had his own injury problems, he's come into the team fully fit when Liverpool are certainly not at their maximum best and at their maximum strength. But we certainly have not seen the best of him yet. I think that's quite easily to say.
Yeah. Maka, Liverpool are where Manchester City were at the beginning of the season. They looked a little bit tired. They had problems breaking down teams. What do you think has happened for them that they seem to have gone to another level or back to where they were maybe a couple of years ago?
I think they're defensively stronger, Raf. I think, we can all see that. John Stones is a new lease of life, and fair play to him. He's been magnificent alongside Ruben Dias. The fact that they haven't had so many injuries that were in important places that they had last year. I think the forwards are all fit and well, and because of their quality, Pep has been able to rotate a Mahrez and a Sterling and being able to take them in and out of games, I think, which really, really helps as well. And I just think their confidence at the moment is extremely high, isn't it? They look, every time they go on the pitch, you look at their starting 11, you don't see any weakness. Even now De Bruyne is out. De Bruyne will make them better. But even when you take him out because of his injury problems and you put a Fernandinho in there, along with a Foden or a Rodrigo or a Gundogan who's in incredible form, I just think they're oozing confidence now that they can just turn up and roll over teams quite easily. And that says a lot. They look as if they're in excellent form. They look as if their competition for places is all over the field. And they don't look as if they've got any weaknesses at this moment in time.
No, they've only conceded 1 goal in their last 9 Premier League games, and they've kept 11 clean sheets in their last 13. Defensively, Man City have just been on another level, haven't they, Maka? But do you think that the biggest difference between the two squads, you've alluded to it already, is that actually when you look at the fringe players in Liverpool's team and the fringe players in Man City's team, Man City's are just so much stronger, and that's why they've been able to push on and push through what was a bit of a sticky patch in the earlier part of the season to now get to the top of the table?
Yes, I think that there's a certain amount of truth in that. I also think, last year when Manchester City was struggling, to a certain extent was struggling, people kept on going on about, Vincent Kompany's gone and they're struggling at the back. And when you lose a certain amount of key players, you will struggle regardless of how strong your squad is. So City haven't had that to a certain extent this year, and Liverpool have had it, and they've had it in bucket loads. So I think that doesn't help. But if you judge Manchester City squad and Liverpool squad fit and well, all of them, you would still say Manchester City's overall squad is stronger than Liverpool's. I think that goes without saying. But I think, the fact that you have injuries to key men at key times, doesn't matter whether it's this year, last year, it will have a knock-on effect for the best teams. That goes all across Europe, that knock-on effect has. And unfortunately for this year, it's affected Liverpool greatly, and it'll affect them until you can get your main men back. Yes, they've reinforced positions in the transfer window, but then Mane goes out. I mean, as much as the missing the goalkeeper, certainly of late, hasn't really affected them. It's another voice behind an otherwise fragile centre defensive partnership. So I think once Liverpool get a lot of players back, and I think they'll have a lot of them back for Sunday, of course, missing the central defensive partnership, it'll be a different type of Liverpool. But until they do that, and until they get certain bodies back, I think they'll still struggle in certain games because they haven't got the firepower to break teams down.
So, Maka, let's get your prediction before we let you go. Having said all of that, it is such a big game with so much at stake. So do you think Liverpool could surprise a win here, or do you think it's going Man City's way?
Yeah, I don't think it's a surprise, Jules, and I think it'll all determine the 11 on the field. I think Manchester City are quite solid in what they're doing. What I've read of late, I don't see them having any injury worries. Listen, if Liverpool have Alisson back, if they have Fabinho back, if they have Sadio Mane back, if they have one of the centre defenders back, one of the new players will play, and they'd be able to push Jordan Henderson into midfield, of course they can win the game. That's a really strong team. If they've got the same team out that played against Brighton a couple of days ago, City will win, I believe. But if Liverpool have 4 or 5 of them big hitters back and move people into position where they should play, Sadio Mane comes back, I think Liverpool could easily win the game. But it'll all depend on the lineup. I know it's easy for me to sit here and say I don't really know at the moment. City are the team in form. If Liverpool have the same team out, I'd fancy them. But if Liverpool go back to some sort of normality, of course you'd fancy them at Anfield.
All right, Maka, thank you very much for joining us. Good to get your insight, as always.
To be fair, Maka mentioned Gundogan there, Rafa. How was, I knew Gundogan, coming over from Borussia Dortmund, had a few injuries. This season, he's gone to a new level, what I've seen.
He's amazing.
Yeah,
people in Germany are saying he's the best German player at the moment.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
In all leagues. And I think they have a point because he controls the game for the best team in England.
Yeah.
He scores goals. He makes things happen. He plays with a swagger. You love to see him play at the moment. I think he has a bit more freedom now that De Bruyne is not ahead of him. he can take up the positions that De Bruyne would take in the number 10 role, be a bit further advanced. He's also, I think, not always comfortable being a deep player where he has to win balls and has to fly into tackles. It's not his game. He wants to be on the ball. He's a Spanish type player. So the more control you have as a team, the more he's able to go push forward rather than have to worry about protecting the back four, the better he is. And I think there's a big reason why he's really come to another level over the last few games.
Glenn, just one question from me tactically, because I love talking to you about tactics. When I watched them against Burnley, they play with a back four: Laporte, Diaz, Stones, Cancelo as a right back. But in possession, a back three, Cancelo would go into that midfield area. It's like incredible to watch. And then he has I wouldn't say a free roll, but he ends up everywhere. Then as soon as they lose the ball, he sprints back into that right back position. It's quite incredible to watch.
Yeah, no, it's different in the sense that he goes inside.
Yeah.
I've done it when you go into a back three in possession and then your fullback becomes the wing back and stays wide.
He goes
but
inside.
City, he goes inside. But if you watch, Rob, every time he goes inside, that's a signal to the wide player on the right-hand side. Has to be wide. He has to be right on the
do play right wide.
And then deep. He comes deep. And normally the left back doesn't want to go with him, so he end up, whoever's on the ball just rolls it out to the winger and he's spare. And it's all because the right back's gone inside to crowd out the midfield player, has to pick him up.
Yeah.
He can't get across to the winger. The fullback wants to stay on the cover a little bit, and that's how they work that little triangle down that side. But I think the big difference between the two teams is the stability that City have had in their defence.
Yeah.
Stones has been outstanding. Everything that I thought he was a couple of years ago. They've had the stability, and Liverpool have obviously not had that stability. And the big thing, it's all right saying, well, the centre-backs are not in the team and whatever. They've had to take two of their influential out of the midfield.
Yeah.
Fabinho and Henderson. Henderson's doing a great job, by the way, I think. He does a great job in that back four. But to put them in the back four, and if Fabinho's playing, he's probably going to have to put him again in the back four. They'd like to put probably Henderson back into midfield, which will make Liverpool stronger. But for me, that's been the real problem for Liverpool all season. The front three, yes, they're fantastic, but it just shows you they need service, and they haven't been given the same sort of service as they have done in the last 2 or 3 years.